So Mrs. Vreeland met me, and she wrote a memo to her staff. And these are memos that were typed out and passed around on the desk. This was the 2nd of November, 1970. It's a Tonne Goodman. I think Tonne has the makings of a good model, strength and ease in getting, quote unquote, off the ground. Tonne has not learned how to smile or use her eyes or to make herself extraordinary with her face. This is something you must teach a model and then see to it that she carries it out. Please do not fail with this girl. She is not pretty. She pulled together perfect bones and proportion in an aristocratic manner. Okay, aristocratic isn't a word. And on the bottom of this memo is scribbled into handwriting, see pictures? It's like somebody saw it and thought, wait a minute, who is this person? I need to see a picture. But she did send me off to Richard Avedon, Bert Stern, the photographers that worked with Vogue, and I was photographed by them.
I'm Jill Demling, and this is Going Rogue. To kick off 2026, I'm re-releasing my conversation with Tonne Goodman, longtime fashion director at American Vogue. Tonne styled over 200 covers at Vogue, and most of them were with me. Tonne experienced the British invasion of American magazines firsthand, working under Liz Tilberis at Harper's Bazaar and then Anna Wintour at Vogue. She was there as that shift happened, when the photographer first era gave way to celebrity covers and when the magazine cover became the most valuable real estate in fashion. I'm bringing this back now because next week, my guest will be Paul Cavaco, another legendary fashion editor whose career is completely intertwined with Tonne's. They were co-fashion directors at Bazaar, and then when Paul left Vogue for Allure, Tonne took over. Much like her uniform, white jeans, loafers, and a black button-down, Tonne's work has always been about clarity over noise. So let's listen as Tonne Goodman goes rogue. And to see the images we discussed today, head to our Instagram, goingrogue.podcast.
Hi.
Hello there. Oh, I'm so happy to really happy to see you. Really.
You too. And thank you for doing this. I finally get the second of the big three. It's like my Celtics players. It's you, Grace, and Phyllis.
I mean, yeah. The thing, I was thinking about this so much. I have my book out that shows all the covers that we did together.
Yeah.
Because we did very many covers together. And I just thought, there are half of those stories I can't tell, of course.
Right.
It wouldn't be possible. Because, as my mother used to say, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. And those circumstances, of course, occurred. They occurred to all of us.
Right. I'm so excited for us to talk today. I mean, of everyone through the 20 years I was at American Vogue, we did the most together. And I was trying to remember when and how we first met. I clearly remember you coming to meet Anna. I was in Anna's office at the time. I don't know if I set up the meeting, but I did go to get you from the lobby. So was that after Liz Tilberis had passed and Kate Betts had taken over?
Yes. Kate had not taken over yet, but was about to take over.
Okay.
And I knew at that point that what had happened at Harper's Bazaar was so special. And when Liz died, that whole experience was so devastating. And the attempt to keep the magazine what it was going to be fraught with all sorts of drama and problems and everything. And I thought, I need to get out of here. And I was very lucky. It was Grace who said to Anna, you should consider Tonne. Did you know that?
Oh, wow. No. Oh, Grace, actually, when I think about it, has been responsible for bringing a lot of people over, Edward as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's who Anna would go to, the know-it-all.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Paul had just left, right?
Right, yes.
Paul had gone to Allure, and the spot opened, and Grace said, why don't you bring Tonne in here and talk to her? And I remember it very clearly because I was out in Long Island with the kids, and I put on my pencil skirt, my fishnet stockings. I don't know if you remember what I was wearing, but I do. And I came and I talked to Anna, and I think that she offered me the job then and there. But
Wow.
I mean, I started the next month.
That's what she does, though. That happened to me. I met her, and then I went to say bye to Bucky Keaty in HR, and they said, "Can you start Monday?" I was like, "Can I think about it?"
Yeah.
And she gave me this look. But it's funny because everyone I've spoken to, they might have blacked out during the interview with Anna, but they always remember what they wore. And
Right.
most of them have kept the outfit, like Brian Coates, Carla Martinez. Everyone remembers.
Oh, how funny. Well, my outfit was my uniform. I've always had a uniform. And in
Right.
those days, the uniform was a pencil skirt, fishnet stockings, kitten heels, and a black turtleneck. Period. The end. That was it.
So I was still there. And then this timeline makes sense because I was thinking it would have been around that time. But if Kate hadn't started yet, then it was probably a week before Kate poached Dita Coben, who was my position. And that's when Anna offered me entertainment editor. But then
Okay.
it was the process of me convincing Leslie Fremar to take the first assistant position. And
Right.
then,
Wow.
yeah.
Right.
And then replace her, which everyone knows was the writer of The Devil Wears Prada. So actually, the first cover that we physically did together was the George Clooney Giselle shoot. And I
Right.
would have booked that while still answering Anna's phones.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
That was at the end of 99 that I booked it. And it was
Right.
the June 2000 cover. So that would have been our first cover together.
Uh-huh. Okay. Here's Giselle. I'm seeing Giselle right now. First of all, when I was at Harper's Bazaar, I had a big crush on George Clooney.
Yes.
And I had said to Liz Tilberis when he did Failsafe, he did a live taping of it. He's really quite something. And I said to Liz, we should do a cover with him, I'm telling you. And Liz was absolutely not buying it. And so I pitched right away as soon as I got to, and Anna bought. It was so adorable because Giselle was this new wonder who was on the scene. She had no idea who he was.
I know Jimmy Paul tells the story when he was saying the longest word or something. And he goes, remember, I played a doctor on TV.
He was very, very funny, but it was so sweet because it was Herb. Do you remember? It was just
Yes.
such a sweet day with all of them.
Well, when I was on with Jimmy Paul, it was really funny how he was talking about George and, like you just said, Giselle being young and so much fun and just always happy to be there, but had no idea who George Clooney was.
None.
And I just find that so shocking.
No. And he was very charmed by the fact that she didn't know who he was. He thought it was just such a lark.
Yeah. And Herb, too. We did some great shoots with him that we'll talk about, but what an amazing group of people together.
We've had such experiences together.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, here's the thing I wanted to bring
Okay.
up.
Okay.
I didn't remember that the first Rihanna shoot, that nothing fit her because we had the wrong sizes. I know she had her period, so that might have been a
Well,
problem.
nothing fit her because it wasn't that we had the wrong sizes. It was that we were working with sample sizes.
Right.
And
But
unless you're kind of cued by the agent and by the people that work with her that she's not going to fit into a sample size right now for whatever,
right. Right.
you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. But I still, that is one of the all-time greatest shoots. You
Okay.
know what?
Okay. Now I can tell a story out of school. Okay. Because that dress, that Chanel dress was on my rail and it was the cover dress. Remember?
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
All of a sudden it wasn't on my rail. I was like, where did it go? It was on somebody else's rail. So I had to get it back from that rail and pop it back onto my rail because I said, I'm sorry, but that dress actually is for the cover. So, as much as I'd like to be able to shift, I cannot.
Oh my God. Carla and Brian Coates talk about that a lot. Like the diplomacy, as Carla said, what she learned the most working for Wendy with the three of you was
Right.
diplomacy.
Well,
And that yes is the only answer. I go, but what if it's Grace wants something off Tawny's rack? She goes, yes is always the answer for everyone and everything.
right. Well, the thing is that you really learn how to advocate for your rack. was those racks, if you remember, were in the hall.
Yes.
They were all lined up in the hall outside of our offices. So they were fair game, essentially. So you really you had to be like a hawk watching those racks of yours. Otherwise, you'd be rifled through and you never know what could have
I
come in.
know. I always kind of remember seeing Grace like kind of walking by, wall walking, just kind of,
Yeah,
pushing the dresses just to see what.
absolutely. That was
I know. What I realized is we were right there when that transition happened
Yep.
from models to celebrities. In the year 2000, we did 4 celebrity covers and there's 8 models. In 2001, 5 celebrities. 2002, it jumped to 10 non-model covers.
Right.
2003, I booked all 12 covers and you styled 11 of them. The only one you didn't style was the Nicole September. Every year after that, I had no less than 11 covers I was responsible for.
Yep.
And that was only because I couldn't find someone for the 12th. Ideally, in some years I had 12.
Yeah.
It's wild.
No, I know. You had your hands full, may I just say.
It wasn't a progression. It was here.
No, it was the Zoom. But do you remember the covers were graded, weren't they? Wasn't there a process where they were actually put in front of a
yes. Random people in
and-
trailer parks is what I
Yes.
thought. I'm like, who is deciding this cover?
Yeah, and it was something like that. It was really interesting that
Yeah.
they were paying such attention to it.
No, it was. So let me start.
Okay.
Through all of these conversations I've been having, I've realized that many, if not all of my guests, knew at a very young age what they wanted to be. Jimmy Paul wanting to be a hairdresser at 6, and Phyllis the same, just knowing very young since she can remember what she wanted to be. And it's kind of 50-50 if they felt encouraged to follow this dream, which felt very much a dream in the different time periods and different households, or they were discouraged. And that's not to say their parents were doing it in a cruel way. It would be either to protect their children, like that's one job, and that's in New York City. We're here in, let's say, Tennessee, where Norman grew up. It didn't
Right.
even seem like it was a job that was even possible.
Right.
And from hearing you speak about your parents and having met your equally chic sisters, I know your upbringing had a huge influence on you, your style and your love of the arts. I love how you describe what your parents would wear every night. Your mother's floor-length skirt and pearls, your father's velvet smoking jacket, even when it was just a family dinner. And from listening to you speak about your mother through all the years we worked together, I can imagine she had the beauty and sophistication of Grace Kelly and the strength and intelligence of Michelle Obama. Can you tell us a bit about your childhood and how you discovered fashion and eventually modeling?
Well, I grew up in New York City. I had parents that loved the arts. My mother loved the arts. So did my father, but my father was a surgeon, so he was busy all the time. Mummy, on the other hand, came to New York from Ohio and did textile design. And then when she got married, she had 4 children in 6 years. So she had this little tribe with her all the time. And she just took us everywhere that she liked to go. So she took us to the ballet, and she took us to the Philharmonic, and she took us to hear Leonard Bernstein would do on Saturdays the children's concert.
Oh
and
my
Jamie, his
God.
daughter, was in my class. So we all went to the Philharmonic all the time. And to the museums and to the plays. Mummy was very free-minded. So when The Boys in the Band, that play, started in New York, it was a tiny production, way west side in the 50s, in some little theater. And it was The Boys in the Band. I must have been like 11, 12, who knows? We all went to The Boys in the Band. So we had a very liberal exposure to the arts of all sorts. And that really is what the foundation of my career is that.
Absolutely. That's so
another
wonderful to have it in your backyard too. To
advantage of New York. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Did you have a
So,
uniform as a child?
well, I always had a uniform, yes, because I went to the Burley School, and the Burley School had a uniform, and it was a very snappy little navy tunic and pleated skirt. I went to Burley for 13 years, from kindergarten right through 12th grade. My class was rather rebellious, and we had broken the dress code, and I didn't have to wear that anymore. So my uniform then was a pair of pale blue wide wale corduroy pants. I wore them every day. That was that.
So do you think that has something to do with your having a uniform? I had a uniform for a bit when I was at Catholic school, and it did make it easier. It definitely made it easier to not have to waste time or energy just making that decision when you're going to have 100 decisions to make the rest of the day.
Yes, I think that it makes it much easier, but I also think it's important in schools because it is the great equalizer.
Absolutely.
So all the kids are wearing the same thing. The kid that has less ability to dress in an expensive fashion, it does not have to compete with somebody who can. So
That's amazing.
I'm a big endorser of uniforms in school. And I also think that for a child, it gives you a sense of how to rely on something, the reliability of it. You don't have to second guess, and you don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to do anything. You can just
that is true.
put it right on.
And then at that time, did you have an idea of what you wanted to be? Adam Green was telling me he wanted to be a veterinarian, which I think every kid goes through.
I wanted to actually be a doctor at one point. My father's a surgeon.
Yeah.
Or an artist, but I was very good at drafting. I had a very precise hand for drawing. And I thought maybe I could do medical illustration because that's very precise. And I thought that when I realized I really did not have the brains to be a doctor. So I did go to art school from Brearley. And I did spend a year in Italy studying there. And I did attend an anatomy class that you drew from the cadaver. And that was it for me. It was
Oh
too
my
emotional,
God.
and it was too heartbreaking to have this person on the table. So that was the end of that.
Oh,
And
that is so intense and so specific. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's interesting. Just a side note, after speaking with Norman, one of the things that was so brilliant about him is he gives himself license to change his profession anytime he wants. And that's this freedom that a lot of people, they're on one track, and then to find out, wait, I can't even do this. It's like the greatest failure ever.
I had a little help in one failure because when I went to art school, I went to the Philadelphia College of Art. And the first year I was there, I was taught by a guy called Harry Soviak, and he was a wonderful character. And at the end of the term, he said to me, you're never going to make it as an artist. You're never going to be an artist. And I was absolutely punched in the stomach.
Oh my God.
And he said, because you have too good taste. And he said, you're never going to let it go. You're always going to play safe because you've got this great taste. And I thought, well, okay, great. It didn't mean anything to me then. It just was a devastation, a total devastation. So that's how come I'm not a working artist, I guess.
Well, everything does happen for a reason. And it's interesting how people end up where they end up when it seems like the most obvious thing. It's like, I can't imagine you not doing what you do. But where did the modeling come up? Because I read that you began modeling at a young age and that Vogue's Diana Vreeland spotted you in an elevator at Condé Nast on a go-see, and that meeting launched your modeling career, yet you describe yourself as a terrible model. And Mrs. Vreeland would not notice a terrible model.
Oh, yes, she would. Okay.
She would? Tell me.
You have to back into this story.
Okay.
So the story is that I started modeling when I was 15 because my parents were friends with Leo Lerman, who was at that time the editor-in-chief of Mademoiselle magazine, which is a magazine that does not exist anymore, but it was like the baby Vogue.
Yeah, I loved
Very
it.
cheap. It was great.
Yeah.
And I went up to see Leo in the summer to say, can I have a job? Could I be an intern? Could I be a something or other? And he said, well, there's nothing here. But he said, you're tall and you're skinny. Why don't you try modeling? So he sent me around to do test pictures. And I did model. I did. I got
with big photographers.
Well, not then. At that point, it was my first shoot was for Mademoiselle magazine. It was with Gus Peterson. And I did it for the summer and then went back to school. And I had met a wonderful photographer who I did a lot of pictures with, David McCabe. And so it was a lovely experience because I worked a lot with him. But then I decided to take a year off between high school and art school. So I modeled for a year then. And that's when Keisha Keeble, who was an editor at Vogue and who was Paul Cavaco's wife.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Paul is my best friend. So Keisha saw me in front of my building when she was shooting and she said, come up to Vogue. I think you should meet. So that's how I got into that elevator.
Wow.
Through Keisha. And I remember what I was wearing that day too, because I had a blue sort of jersey dress, long sleeved. It had a V-neck with a collar, spread collar. And it literally came to just below the crotch. I mean, I wore the shortest skirts because it was, the 60s.
I know. I just can't picture it because you're so...
I mean, and...
but of course, you have the body. Why not?
And I had platform shoes on because, it was the 60s.
Yeah. And you're going to a fashion mag. I mean, you're in the building.
And
if there's anywhere to wear it,
right,
wear it there. Yeah.
Well, I wore that all the time.
Oh.
I was always in an outfit. And I had very, very long hair. And so I went up there. But the sort of caveat to all of this is that Diana Vreeland's grandson, Nicky Vreeland, I was seeing.
Oh.
He was the brother of Alexander Vreeland. Alexander Vreeland went to school with my brother at St. Bernard's. So we all met. We all knew one another.
Right.
And Nicky and I were together. And I think that Mrs. Vreeland was very reluctant to meet me. I mean, Nicky wanted me to meet her because she didn't want to disappoint him. Because what if she didn't like me and she didn't want to help me, whatever. So she was very reluctant. I'm going to read you the memo that she sent.
Yes, please. Because I love this. I love hearing what these icons were like when they weren't editor-in-chief, when they were mothers, because obviously being Anna's assistant and working with Anna for 20 years, I saw her a lot as a mother. But you forget that when they leave that office or the whole time they're a mother too. Like,
right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, so Mrs. Vreeland saw me, she met me, and she wrote a memo to her staff. Okay. And these are memos that were typed out and passed around on the desk.
Yeah, because Phyllis was her assistant secretary and had to do those memos.
Okay. So I wonder if Phyllis remembers this because this was the 2nd of November, 1970. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And I had graduated. In June, I had graduated from Brearley. So it went to Miss Mirabella, Baron de Gunsberg, Mrs. Simpson, Mrs. Schiff, Mrs. Mellon, Mrs. de Montezemolo, Miss Keeble, Keisha Keeble, Miss Donovan, Mrs. Ingersoll, Miss McKenna, Miss Boylan, Mrs. Frankel, Miss Hayes, Mr. DeHue, Mrs. Blackman, Mrs. Gross, Miss Kane, and Miss Slavin. Remember Sarah Slavin?
Yes.
Hey, she was that Sarah Slavin.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, and it's a Tonne Goodman. I think Tonne has the makings of a good model, strength and ease in getting, quote unquote, off the ground. Tonne has not learned how to smile or use her eyes or to make herself extraordinary with her face. This is something you must teach a model and then see to it that she carries it out. Please do not fail with this girl. She is not pretty. She pulled together perfect bones and proportion in an aristocratic manner. Okay, aristocratic is a word. And on the bottom of this memo is scribbled in handwriting, see pictures? It's like somebody saw it and thought, wait a minute, who is this person? I need to see a picture. But she did send me off to Richard Avedon, Bert Stern, the photographers that worked with Vogue, and I was photographed by them. And I did take the summer to do the collections. I went to Paris, and I wish I could find the picture because there was a really fabulous picture that was done at the Ritz at night. Because in those days, the couture collections, you have to shoot everything at night because the clothes were with the clients to buy.
Oh, got it.
I was a terrible model.
What did your parents think about this episode or this time period?
Daddy sort of let me go along with it. I mean, Mommy was very open with all that happened because, I ran away and lived on a boat and all that kind of stuff. But I think they were fine with it. I mean, it didn't last long because I was shooting with David Bailey, and I think I had the flu, and I was just as stony as you could get. I was a terrible model. I did not have the generosity that a great model has. I was head to toe in winter clothes, and he said to me, just look fuckable. That did it.
Oh, I could totally hear him saying that. I've been on sets with
this rarely girl, that was it. And actually, after that, and this is a true story, I ran into Arthur Elgort. And I don't know, I guess we had met in the course of stuff. And it was at a cafe, and he was sitting outside, and he said, come and have a coffee. And he just took one look at me, and he said, why don't you go home? Why don't you get on a plane and go home? Because he knew that I was miserable.
Wow.
And I did. That was the end of that.
Now, do you remember during that time period how the stylists were with you? Like, thinking back, were there any tips or things that you took from that experience being a model into your career being an editor? Because I do feel seeing you on set, I love your posing when you're showing the models, but also you must understand what it feels like. You see the human because you were the one that sat in front of the camera without a break or a sip of water at points of.
Yeah. No, I do. I think it had a big impact on myself as an editor because exactly what you just said. I know what it was to be a model. I know what it was to go on a go-see and just be mortified when people looking you up and down, checking you out, and either not liking what they saw or liking what they saw. And I'm very maternal with most of the girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I really make sure that they're taken care of because they're there giving. That's all they do is they give to us. They put these clothes on and then they just give. And I think that needs to be honored. So I think a lot of that came from my experience as a model and knowing how devastating it can be.
Right.
To be put in that position.
Yeah, just even the simple things. If you're standing in an awkward position for so long, or just being aware that this isn't an object, it has feelings. And
Okay.
So from modeling, you went to work with Diana Vreeland. Is that the Met Costume Institute period?
Well, so I was in art school and I had a little vacation with my sister, Wendy. And we went off to St. Martin's over Christmas, and we met a sailor. What can I tell you? And we sailed these islands, worked the charter with him. And then I came back and dropped out of art school. So that was that for that
Right.
year. Then September came and I was not going back to school. And Diana Vreeland at that point was really using volunteer labor to mount the shows that she was doing. And she had left Vogue by that time and was at the Metropolitan Museum. And so I volunteered. And that was really the beginning of all of it, because I spent, I think, 4 or 5 years with Mrs. Vreeland working on the shows. And I met Carrie Donovan again. She had been an editor at Vogue when I was there. I did photographs with her. And she was then at the New York Times Magazine section. And she said to me, do you want to come work for me at the New York Times? So
Wow.
that was the transition from the Met to becoming an editor.
Yeah, you said Mrs. Vreeland. commanded without words that we understand the significance of excellence, commitment, and magic. Do you consider her one of your greatest mentors?
Oh, without question, without question. She was such an extraordinary force, and she had such an extraordinary point of view that she was my greatest mentor, for sure. No question. And the work ethic and the devotion and the dedication and the way she lived her life, everything about her was absolutely out of the ordinary, extraordinary.
Right. Well, when I was reading up, just to kind of figure out how all these transitions at Vogue happened, and there were so many rumors that she was let go because of spending so much money on shoots with zero receipts. Talking to Phyllis, who said it really was, as they say, she treated fashion like theater. And at that point, it was transitioning to the working woman. So Grace Mirabella, the beige years, as they say. And then Anna comes and she's the middle ground,
Right.
Appreciation of fashion as art. But we don't need a uniform to be working women. So assuming women work, you don't need a guide to dress for the workforce. So,
Exactly.
So from New York Times, did you move to Calvin Klein?
No, what happened was I was at the New York Times for a while.
And that's where you met Meisel, correct?
Yeah, that's the first time I worked with Stephen. Stephen was just transitioning from being an illustrator for Women's Wear Daily.
Wow.
I know. And he had just started taking pictures, and I love Stephen so much. Right then and there, I knew who he was, what he was going to become, everything about him. And I really enjoyed working with him. So, yeah, I mean, the first shoot I did for the New York Times was Helmut Newton.
Oh, my God.
Talk about it, hit the ground running. The thing about working at the New York Times was that it was the magazine section that came out every single week. And I had a title, which was fashion reporter, which could not have been more erroneous. I don't know how to put it, but I certainly was not a reporter. But I did learn fast because I had to come up with a story idea. I had to market it. I had to cast it. I had to take it out and shoot it. Then I had to bring it back, help lay it out, and write the captions and the copy for it. And those days, you were literally counting characters.
Oh my gosh.
It was different.
Yeah.
And this was on a weekly basis.
Oh my gosh.
Not every single week. And so it was a crash course that was really fantastic. I was always having a breakdown. I was always questioning myself. But that's the only way you learn.
Yeah, that's sometimes the best way. Me working for Anna, I didn't even know who she was when I was interviewed by HR. So it was like, drop you in the deep end.
And you gotta swim. Carrie used to pass my desk and she would watch me try to write a blurb. And a blurb is just the headline, which is a couple of sentences. She said at one point, she said, Tonne, let's not make War and Peace out of this, which is heaven. That was Carrie. It was wonderful working with Carrie. I've had enormous fortune with every job I've ever had.
And then how did you end up at Calvin Klein? Then we get to Harper's and Vogue.
From the Times, realizing once again, I'm an art school dropout, not even a college dropout.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a career here. So I went and became independent. I became a stylist. And I set up a little office and I got an assistant and I did commercial work and I did work for Self magazine that was around then, and Life magazine. I did quite a few covers for Life magazine.
Wow.
They saw the success of Sports Illustrated with a bathing suit issue, so they decided to put a bathing suit on the cover, and it was Christy Brinkley, and that was with Patrick de Marchelier. I mean, all of these threads, they all knot together and tie into a beautiful bow by the end of the story.
Right.
And so I worked with Life magazine quite a lot. I did Madonna's first cover for Life magazine, and that was with Bruce.
Oh my gosh.
And that was amazing. So I had these remarkable experiences. Paul Cavaco was doing the styling for Calvin Klein, and Paul transitioned out of that and I transitioned into it. So I started to work for Calvin when I was freelance. And eventually Calvin said, you just come aboard, like just join us. And I didn't, because I was having a long distance relationship. And then that changed. And when he asked me again, I joined the company. So I came aboard and worked for Calvin. And that was really wonderful because totally my sensibility.
Yeah. And what was he like to work with? Obviously, I was watching the Vogue 90s, and it was him and Donna and Ralph. And it was just amazing to hear their stories and just what New York was like then, and them being the big three of New York fashion.
Yeah.
And so different.
It was amazing. You know, there are no words from me about Calvin because I just think that he is brilliant. He's an incredible designer, but he also has a finger on the pulse like no one else. And everything that he did, and every design that came out of the design room to every piece of advertising that was published and printed, you know, Calvin's kind of wraparound sensibility applied to all of it.
And when you think about, let's say, Calvin, Diana Vreeland, Liz Tilberis, and Anna, do you see similarities between any of them, or are there very...
No, I think they're very similar because they all have a discipline. They all have a point of view, all have a sensibility. They are all true to themselves. They really are remarkable examples of kind of talent and humanity kind of wrapped into one kind of amazing thing.
From Calvin, can you think of any specific, I don't know, I wouldn't say lessons, but something you carried with you from that period or from him that we can see maybe in your work sometimes that is a nod to him?
I think all of it, the discipline that applies to making a decision through a circumstance with Calvin is very exacting. Very. There's no questioning. Well, actually, that's not true. I mean, Calvin very recently told me a story when I saw him at the new Calvin Klein when it showed. And he said, do you remember when we were looking at that dress? And you said at one point, why don't we try it with flats? And we did. And he said, do you remember? Anna hated it. And I said, no, I forgot that Anna hated it. But that was what would happen. We would go into this one room that was off of his office, and the fit model would be there, and we would study that damn dress or that damn skirt until we made a decision. I mean, until he made a decision.
And was that a decision to have it in the collection or how to style it for a show?
How to present it. I just remember so distinctly being in the room with him, and it was a black dress, jersey dress. It was crew neck, long sleeved, and it was jersey, so it was fluid, it was A-line. And we had it with very high heels. And then I just said, you know, what about a flat? And then she turned into a totally different character.
Right.
When you put a flat with a simple black dress.
It's so funny that he remembers that from...
Remembered it, yeah. It was because there were flats that were shown in this lady.
Oh.
That's what reminded him. It was so wonderful to see him. I just love him. I really did.
Yeah, he's one of those legends that everybody knows his name. Let's get to magazines. So when and how did you end up at Harper's? And then I would love to just hear about that experience, because we're going to talk a lot about our experience together at Vogue. And from what I gather, Anna and Liz were very different. I'm sure there are things that are similar in their work ethic, but as humans, just from what I hear, and I think it's important when someone's going to a different magazine, it's not just the magazine's different and the editor-in-chief's different. The environment's different. Sometimes everything changes. The work environment can be the most jarring difference sometimes, not just what's in the magazine. So I would love to hear about the Liz years, because she's incredible.
It's interesting because what happened from Bazaar to Vogue happened from Calvin to Bazaar also, because there was a change of the guard. Calvin brought in a kind of creative director named Neil Kraft, and I was supposed to report to Neil. And this was the transition when Fabienne came along and Marky Mark and all that. I was not part of Calvin for any of that. I realized at that point that my experience with Calvin was going to change dramatically. And just so happens, there came Liz, being brought over from British Vogue to reinvent Harper's Bazaar. She called and interviewed me for fashion director. She was also interviewing Paul for fashion director.
Oh my gosh.
Cavaco. And the two of us became co-directors.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it's very unusual to have two fashion directors, but that's what we were, two fashion directors. And Liz was remarkable because Liz really, she had been given this extraordinary opportunity to turn this magazine around. And she did. She had a great reverence for the photograph. And she really wanted the photograph to come in before she wanted the fashion to come in. And so she had Peter Lindbergh and she had Patrick. Patrick and Peter were the two photographers that really steered the ship of the whole thing. And Fabien Baron, he was the one that presented this new magazine. And he really put the fashion magazine on trial. You know?
Well, that's amazing for the photographers, that way of thinking. For sure. Unless you're a real fashion photographer who loves clothes and the look is the center of the picture, like Norman would say, sometimes I hated the clothes, but I had to shoot that dress, even though, and we know Annie, but to think about the photograph first.
Well, here's the thing. The person who was so good at both of those things simultaneously, it was Mario.
Exactly.
Mario loved the fashion. And Mario was the only photographer that I worked with who, the night before the shoot, we would do a fitting and we would start to figure out how we were going to shoot everything and put together the looks together. And his involvement was so critical to that image. And then once he had wrapped himself around the fashion with the editor, who I was lucky enough to be, then he took the photograph.
No, Norman talks about him as being one of the all-time greatest because of his ability to also see the person wasn't dead eyes and wasn't just the hanger. You felt the whole thing, and that he made women look more beautiful sometimes than they were.
Yeah.
Just because they felt it.
They did. But I'll tell you who else was really good at that was Patrick. I mean, Patrick in the studio, he had one umbrella lamp and he moved it around. He did all the lighting.
Wow.
No, but he didn't have a team that lit for him. And no one ever could look not their best with Patrick's light. He was really remarkable.
Well, let's talk about the photographers because it's the most interesting to me. So with the different photographers, I always think it's interesting because they have, at least the ones I've worked with, which is the majority of the ones we've been talking about, they're all so different as far as just how they are on set from my point of view, their demeanor, and obviously being part of some of the pre-production meetings and whatnot, they're also very different. Like I always felt that Mario would show up on set sometimes and then he'd start walking around. It's almost like he had to be there to start seeing the images. Nothing was so planned before. Or even if we did plan, we might not even shoot there. Like my favorite picture is Kirsten Dunst with the dog pulling her sweater. And that wasn't planned, but it felt alive.
Yeah.
It was spontaneous. If he saw something, if the sun was a certain way, let's move over there, you know? Whereas Annie, and Phyllis talks about this, everything was completely planned. All she had to do was snap it, but it was all planned before. And that when she'd send looks, you know, the clothes for her to look at, Annie couldn't see them if they're runway pictures. She needed to see them on a fit model.
Right.
Like all these little specific things.
Right.
with your process, did you find yourself having to change depending on who the photographer was?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. I mean, Mario, well, you know that he's my son's godfather. And the collaboration, I mean, Mario relies on a team to work with him. He's not taking the picture, we're taking the picture.
Right.
And his team, once he got on the set, and you witnessed this as much as I did, is that the manicurist, the caterer, they're all part of the team. There's no discrimination between what the hierarchy is, none whatsoever.
Exactly.
And he's such a wonderful example of humanity.
No, I felt that. He and Herb would let me be part of it.
Yeah.
Like I would sit with you guys when he'd be doing his selections in that little book. And I still DM with him all the time because I've been posting so much of his stuff. And after coming from shoots where I couldn't look at Stephen Meisel in the eye, and I avoided ever bumping into him around a corner, with Herb and Mario, it was like, Jill, what do you think? You were part of the group and everyone and the talent. What do you think? It was an enjoyable experience. It did not feel like work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's our life.
Right. Right.
You have to remember that when I'm on set with people, this is my life. So this is not simply a piece of, me working.
Exactly.
You in my life. So it's important. All of those relationships are so important.
No, I stayed at Vogue for 20 years and I felt completely fulfilled. I felt like Anna was my mom. You guys were my siblings. You know what I mean? I know what that means.
Yeah.
It was my life. It completely was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I enjoyed it for a long time. But
me too.
Yeah. Are there any specific, I don't know, things you can think of that you were taught along the way by specific photographers, knowing how different they are, just like nuggets of wisdom?
I think that what we were just talking about with Mario is one of the great lessons of making sure that everyone is included, that everyone is of equal importance in the room. And you do not see that on a lot of other sets. You simply don't. There are a lot of photographers who really discriminate and who really create an atmosphere where that's impossible for that to happen. And I think it's sad, that circumstance, because once again, it's our life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, I love working with all the photographers I've ever worked with. I've been so remarkably fortunate.
Patrick was, I remember after the Kate Hudson shoot, he's like, let's all go to dinner.
Yeah.
And Peter Lindbergh was like that too. We had some amazing, but Herb for sure was.
Oh my God. Herb, I have to tell you, I would fly in and I usually come in on, I don't know, I remember once answering the phone at midnight. It was Herb. And he did this every single time. And he said, I just want to thank you. I think the shoot went really well. And that scratchy little voice of his was always, always appreciative and told you. Herb was really something.
I know. For him to be the first photographer I ever worked with in a job I had never done before, it was awesome. For a long time, when we had those answering machines, I would save these messages. I regret it now, but he'd talk a long, long time. So sometimes I'd be like, let me let it go to voicemail. And it's like this 10-minute, maybe we should shoot, and I saved those forever. So when you got to Vogue, do you remember the first assignment you had or the first?
I think that I was trying to remember in preparation for this. And I think that the first shoot that I did was with Paul, because Paul and I crossed over for a couple of months. Right. And I believe it was the big shoot that Annie did with all the models. That was a pullout for.
Oh, wow.
So that must have been, what would that have been? The December 1999. Yeah.
So had you worked with Annie before? Because that must have been shocking.
I had worked with Annie on some advertising when I was a freelance stylist. So yes, I had worked with her. But it was the first time working with her for Vogue.
Wow. Okay.
It was quite something, as you can well imagine, because it wasn't just one model. It was, how many models were on that cover?
A lot.
A lot.
she had been working for Vanity Fair, but it's around this time that she started shooting covers more regularly. But those first few years, there weren't a lot with Annie. I guess it started 2002 with Angelina.
Right.
That's, I believe, my first cover with her.
Right.
But what did you think of the culture at Vogue? I mean, you were in the industry, so you must have known what you were in for.
I was at home right away. It was great. My office was right next to Anna's office. Paul and I crossed over for a month or two, maybe. So I had the perfect usher. He ushered me into this atmosphere. He told me about the players. It's Paul. He made sure
Exactly.
I was as at home as he could make it be for me. That is Paul. And I was completely at home. I remember at that point, Anna used to take people out to lunch. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. Vaguely, yes.
In December. And it used to be Michael's. What was it?
Yep. That's
Michael's on.
Yes. And it was Michael's. It was Four Seasons Hotel and Four Seasons Restaurant, two that always confused me when I was her assistant.
Exactly. And it was the restaurant, right?
Yes.
And she took me out to lunch. I can't remember exactly what she said, but the essence was, you don't have to always yes me, essentially. You don't always have to accommodate. And I think that was coincided, actually, this is quite a good story, with the realization that you have to go by your own instincts. Because I remember having a run-through, one of the early run-throughs with Anna, and it was with a celebrity. It was with Heather.
Heather Graham? No.
Heather Graham, yeah. Heather Graham was in the wonderful movie, my favorite movie with the roller skates.
Oh, right. Right. Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. Absolutely one of my favorites.
Yes.
And I had some clothes on the rail, and Anna said at one point, don't take that thing. I don't think you should take it to the set and everything. So I didn't take it to the set. It was exactly what I needed for her. It was a piece of clothing that she needed the structure. She needed to have this piece. And I thought, I will never again not bring what I think I need to bring.
Yes, and you bring a lot.
And since then, as Virginia says, with the little sentence that comes out is, well, I'm just going to keep it in my back pocket then.
Exactly.
So I keep it in my back pocket, and you'd be surprised because that back pocket has often been the opening spread.
Oh, absolutely. And you're dealing with, for you especially, celebrities. They're not models who are going to put on whatever you tell them. So let's get into celebrities. How did you become the person who had to do everyone that wasn't a sample size model? Basically.
Well, that's a very easy thing to answer because Grace wouldn't. Okay. I mean, Paul was the one who did a lot of the celebrity covers.
Right.
And he did not enjoy it.
Well, there wasn't that many back then.
Yeah, but he still didn't enjoy it. So I think that was one of the things that encouraged him to go over to Allure.
Oh.
I think. I don't want to put Paul's mouth, but
when Anna says to you, you don't always have to say yes, but could you say no? I don't think so.
I think that she meant that in terms of being accommodating in the shoot or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I would say no to anything that was politically,
of course,
empathetic to my.
That was clear. With sustainability, you were on the forefront, all the style ethics.
I did do fur for a while, but then afterwards, I stopped doing fur, and Anna would say, "Oh, Tony, please don't," and I would just nod and not shoot it.
So speaking of, I've been looking for this picture of the Charlie's Angels that was meant to be a cover. It was the first time I was getting on with a big studio person.
Okay.
And Anna only wanted Cameron Diaz. Everyone wanted Cameron Diaz, but they decided as the three actresses to only shoot together for this, for the movie.
It was Drew Barrymore, right?
Right. Lucy Liu.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Herb Ritts shooting it.
Yep.
Andre Cavaco, still remember the studio guy and it was a huge get for me because everyone wanted it.
Yep.
So we're shooting, and I mean, there's so many things that we should have known that this was not. It just felt like everything that was happening. I remember Cameron falling into the bushes and someone having to keep rolling the leaves off. I think she was with Jared Leto at the time because I remember him dropping her off at set.
Oh.
They wanted to use the twins, those celebrity stylists, in conjunction with you. It just was almost the impossible mission.
Right.
And then we get it, though. We get it.
Somewhere, and I just saw it recently, but I have no idea where it is now. There's a Polaroid. Remember Polaroids?
Yes.
There's a Polaroid of me and the girls all together, all three of us, all four. Well, the four.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I should see if I can find it.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, we bring the film back. Oh my gosh. And I don't even know how it happened, but I just remember her saying, "It looks like an ad for feminine products." It was all the white outfits.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. But at that time, remember, Drew would not wear any designer that had fur in their collection.
Right.
It was supposed to be the October cover. So we ran it. People are talking about October. And then we were trying to pull it together for November. So I had to deliver the news that, sorry, we need to reshoot. And I always had to spin it somehow. Well, we just saw couture and, or we decided that Stella could make one-of-a-kind pieces, and we tried to pull that off, but I think it just got so complicated because it had to be Stella, but Stella didn't do couture, and November was couture, and could we put...
Yeah.
I just remember that whole thing.
Doing Cameron.
No, Harper's got Cameron. Cameron did not do us for years after that.
Cameron, wait. No,
she did us much later. What she ended up doing, because it was right before the collections, at Bryant Park, the pink cover of Harper's Bazaar, Cameron alone, was everywhere over Bryant Park. Because at that point, they couldn't get a group cover together because we took so long to decide that it's not going to happen. That they all had to do solo covers. And Harper's got that solo. And Anna said to me, "Jill, I thought you said she was only going to do covers with the two girls." And I'm like, well, we killed the cover.
Yeah, right. But wait a second. So the cover that we did with her
would have been for another Charlie's Angel.
Okay.
Oh yeah, 2003. May
Okay.
2003. So we got her 3 years later for the second Charlie's Angels, the sequel.
Okay.
When I got the yes, because Cameron was very mad at us and she had boycotted us. So I had to do my thing with her publicist, Brad Caffarelli, because I spent so much time with him trying to get Cameron. We became friends. And when he called me to say she accepted, I called Anna. It was like, I don't know, 7 p.m. at night. I'm like, Anna. And she's like, "Jill, can we speak tomorrow?" I'm like, we got... And then the next day she's like, "Sorry, Jill, for being short, but we were in the middle of dinner." I'm like, "I know, I'm sorry. I was just so excited. I had to tell you right away." But yeah, so that was one of a heartbreaker. Everything meant so much to me that could have been being left at the altar. That's the feeling I had with that cover.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just talking about sustainability and fur. And then, of course, Drew did it, and she wasn't as strict when we shot her solo.
Right.
But let's talk about Charlize, because I talked to Jimmy Paul about Charlize, and he was telling me that he was nervous for that reshoot because he had heard about the first shoot with Charlize. So you were on the first shoot, I assume, because I didn't go to the first shoot.
I was on the first shoot, yes.
And it just was creative differences, right?
It was creative differences. That's all it was. The stars were not aligned that day.
Right.
And she was feeling one way and Stephen was feeling another way, and they just were not going to converge. That's it.
Well, it's just so funny because I remember that shoot because I was very surprised. She was with the Third Eye Blind singer at the time, and I just remember she was like just kicking his shoe off, and it happened to hit Kate Young in the face. And then it was tense, and everyone has a good day or a bad day, but we shot her so many times after. And I think it was the second cover shoot we did with her with Mario. It had that Helmut Newton-esque image of her in the bathing suit on the lawn. And I was sitting with her assistant, and her assistant was saying, so tell me, who's like the nightmare celebrity you've worked with and who's your favorite? I'm like, Charlize. And she was just laughing because she is someone that's absolutely incredible to work with. It was the beginning of her career. Who knows? But I just remember that.
And her mother was probably there also.
She was.
The mom had a lot of...
Because the dogs pooped on the tennis court. Someone told me that. I don't even remember.
Right.
There was no dogs were allowed at that house we were shooting.
Yes, right. Of course. Oh, God.
Yeah. But then Angelina. So that first Angelina shoot, I remember it was on a weekend. I had been wanting her in the magazine for a long time prior to that, many different times and for various reasons. It didn't happen, but I was very excited for that first shoot. I remember it was at Annie's old studio. And we were going to be doing a story. I think it was with Tom Ford's caftans, all those,
Right.
The YSL at the time, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And the sets had been built. The guys were still finishing them up that morning. They were all these jungle themes, different sets, jungle grass. And she walked in and she's like, not into it. And she just didn't like the concept. She didn't like the caftans, which... Now she does, but I guess at that time she was kind of goth at that point.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of Billy Bob.
What's his name's blood?
Yes, the blood, right.
Around her neck.
So she's like, no, I'm not doing that. Karen and I were talking about it, how it wasn't that easy to get into the Condé offices on the weekends. You had to go up to the offices to figure this out. She wasn't wearing the clothes that we had on the racks there. And then quickly the set people had to take down all the jungle theme sets. And Karen told me this because I had totally forgotten with Gwyneth. So we were shooting Angelina for April, but we were shooting her before we were shooting Gwyneth just because of their available dates. So Gwyneth was being shot Monday for March. So evidently you had already done the fitting with Gwyneth, with the clothes on her rack.
Okay.
But we were in a bind. So you brought those clothes down. It was those clean lines. That's one of my favorite covers with the Narciso pale pink. I'm just curious, and Karen was too, what did Gwyneth say when you showed up at her shoot? Because she was wearing a caftan on the cover. It was standing on the rock, but it was a very short story. There was only 2 images inside.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if she was like, what happened to my rack? She looked gorgeous in that caftan on the cover. That's also one of my favorite covers by Herb.
But here's the thing. That is the shoot where we had her be all of these different characters. Do you remember this? Were you with us?
That wasn't this one, though.
Yes, it was. The one with her on the rock was in California. Remember, we did her as Marilyn Monroe. We did her as Liz Taylor in the Sandpiper. Do you remember this?
Yeah, but I don't think
we did. I have the picture of her as Marilyn Monroe.
Because when I was looking at the exact issue, there was only 2 images that ran.
That's right.
With that cover. Oh, so
Because
it was
shot. It was reshot. Anna killed that whole.
Oh my gosh!
She killed the. We did her as Marilyn Monroe, and I have the picture. I can.
Oh
show
wow! Okay. Yes.
And Elizabeth Taylor in the Sandpiper. We did her as Bridget Bardot. We did her as. I think there were 4.
Yeah, because I remember. It was funny because when I was going through all Gwyneth's, I never saw those pictures, and I was so confused.
So remember, because Kevin was this master artist who could transform any face into any other face. And she looked exactly like Marilyn Monroe and Liz Taylor. And I mean, it was unbelievable.
So why didn't we run it?
Anna didn't like it. Anna did not like it. And she reshot it. And I think we shot it in the studio, right? It's just her in a caftan. And
yes.
Right. Let's just grab this. What issue is it? I'm going to grab it right now.
Yeah, it's March 2002.
Okay, here's March 2002.
Yes, I love that cover. And that's the caftan we had on the Angelina shoot.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And the pictures that ran inside were nothing. Anna didn't like.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
So we literally did a picture. I remember.
I mean, she looks beautiful, but it's just there's no connection with the cover, really. Well, there's another caftan inside that
it
ran.
was the only caftans. Oh, we did. Here it is. We did a white dress
Mm-hmm.
in the studio, photographed by Tom Monroe.
Wait, what?
And then we did red portage pickup.
Yep, because I had to go to her apartment, I
We did
remember,
two
to go over,
Red-
to go over the
And we did a
reportage.
cute little one like that.
Yes.
And then I think there was this one.
Yeah, the caftan. Yes. Okay, so your reshoot must have been that Monday after the Angelina shoot. Okay.
Right.
Because Herb shot that cover and the other story together, and they just ran the cover from the first one.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. And that caftan, I guess, was for Angelina.
Yes. That went with the jungle sets.
Mhm. It was a switch.
Yes. You had to switch it that
Right.
weekend.
Right. Wow.
I mean,
We did pull rabbits out of hats.
I know. Okay. So I think one of the most famous covers we've done together, well, we've done many, but Britney Spears, that will live on forever. And I am still shocked that I was able to get that cover.
Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
got everyone on board.
Yep.
What do you remember about that shoot?
Well, first of all, it was Herb.
Yes.
Heart goes out to Herb.
Yes.
And I remember, and this was very early on in,
yeah, 2001.
Yeah. And I just remember that she was very vulnerable. And I think that this is accurate. I think that we all overheard her talking about being so upset about Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
And it was consuming her totally.
Mm-hmm.
So
She was young.
she was really young. And, Herb could not have been a better photographer to have taken care of her. And those pictures
Absolutely.
were really beautiful. They're in my book.
I know. I wish we had run the picture with the little ballerinas, because remember how she lit up
Yes.
dancing with them?
Yeah.
All these little ballerinas came. We weren't telling them who. The same way as with Beyonce. Remember, with the Alvin Ailey dancers,
Yeah.
and the reaction she had to their reaction of seeing her,
Yeah.
the ballerina dancers. I believe we still sent them pictures, but I was like, Anna, she was in a ballet outfit. All the little girls were in ballet outfits.
I mean, it's so curious when you think of the appeal of that kind of photograph and the fact that Anna would decide not to run it. It's
I
just like,
know.
that process is really interesting to me. Is like what determines what runs and what doesn't.
I mean, we know sometimes it's the credit or lack of one, but how amazing was the Gwen Stefani cover with Meisel, that we got that cover pushed through in the black and white striped lingerie look,
Right.
because that had to
was
be
it-
the cover.
Yeah. Why was it not the right?
It was just a piece. It was just a piece that Meredith had kind of put on the rack that you guys discussed, an extra. It wasn't a brand that advertised, or because we had shot the turquoise. It was like a slip dress that was likely supposed to be
right.
the cover. But I mean, I look at that and I'm just like, that was,
It's a great cover.
yeah, amazing. And then let's think of some other times that the cover look. I mean, that the Angelina shoot, the last one we did in Santa Barbara, was tough. It's always tricky with her. And Phyllis and I talked about the other shoot we did with Angelina with the New York collections, which Phyllis said, the kiss of death, like when it's a strict story. And I always was like, we're shooting Angelina. Like, let's start matching the celebrity to the story if we're not going to match the story to the celebrity, because those two together
Right.
was never going to work.
Right. Well, Phyllis had a handful for that one, right? She was in the desert, right? But
Yes.
Brad on the back of the bike.
Yep. Yep, we
That was
were
pretty
talking. Yeah, but with that last Angelina, I just feel like it's always, maybe it's a situation of we have what we have to work with, right? It has to be that season. It has to be.
right. But there was something else about that. I think that the predominant color that we were working with for a reason that came probably somewhere from her or
Those
something.
conversations. We had many conversations with her.
Was sort of a camel, like everything. And I had rails of these clothes, and she walked in. She didn't want to have any of them on. Was not interested in one thing. And it was you. And I just want to put this right out there that got the cover, because I was at a loss. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, there were some good pictures actually there.
What happened to the zebra? Did we not have the zebra, or did we have the zebra?
We had all sorts of things. And we did get her in clothes that worked. I'll have to look at those pictures.
No,
again.
we did. We did.
But the cover was like, what are we going to do for the cover? There was nothing, and Annie was not helping.
Oh, we were sitting up there, remember, at our camp, and you had already gone down and got talked to. So I was the next one that was having to go down.
And you said, why don't we she's on the beach. Why don't we give her this big black and white sweater with a stripe? And it was designer, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it was Hedy Slimane, wherever he was at the time. So,
yeah. And of course she loved it.
Because we were saving that for the zebra picture. That's why Annie was not she was this is an example of her being so specific in how she set up each image. But at that point, yes. Angie was not shooting at all.
No. I mean, and that was all you. And I was like, oh, thank God Jill has come up with something, because I'm not going to. I don't know what to do.
I remember thinking, I have an idea, but I was afraid, especially when the mood was like that. And with Annie, with Mario or with Herb, I would have said my ideas, but I really thought about it. Should I say it? She could bark at me or just stare at me. I don't know what's worse, but that ended up being great. But at first second, I thought, when I look at the pictures, did we hire the entertainers and the acrobats for the shoot? But it wasn't for the shoot. It was just to entertain the kids.
Oh,
remember? Because she wasn't going to ask them to be in the pictures. Yes. If we could get them down to the beach, maybe they'd get in the pictures.
Right. That's right. That's right. Oh my God, Jill. I mean, honestly.
I know. And then the shoot that still gives me nightmares today is Cayetano and Penelope in Madrid, when the bullfighter got bounded. Probably a couple of days before a shoot, and was in a hospital.
Oh my God.
in Barcelona. And I was supposed to we were shooting so many different characters, her sister, the flamenco dancer,
right.
Pedro Almodovar, and the women.
Yep.
Oh, remember we had to drive so far to get to the specific grass to shoot that Pedro Almodovar, and they had cut it.
Yes. And also I had to outfit all the
yes. Well, because remember, the Matador, Cayetano's team, they weren't in the hospital. So we got them to show up. And Karen kept telling me, Annie needs them in their jackets of lights, their costumes. We need them. And they kept saying, or their rep said, of course they'll bring them. But they don't do that without the Matador. They will not do it. The fact that Cayetano even got into his uniform was just for this special occasion. But I remember watching him. He had all of his dressers. And when it's a religious experience, you are putting this on to potentially meet your death. So, but oh man, we had to find clothes for the guys, because they had to be extras in the Pedro scene.
But they were in Matador costumes.
Yes, on the cover. Yeah, but not in the scene where they're sitting around while Penelope's dancing with Pedro, where they were extras.
Right, exactly.
I just started crying that last day, even though it was over. I think it was just the pent up craziness. Okay, so there were also some shoots that were super complicated, either because of weather or natural elements or groups. I loved the Presley women. That was an example of worked perfectly, right? One designer made the looks for 3 different women of 3 different ages, and it was perfect. Chicago, I think there was some changes there, and Karen told me a story about the wigs that had to fly first class from Toronto that blew away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they ended up getting them, but they flew out of the hat boxes outside of the studio. It's just like all of these things. I mean,
Karen has got the stories. That's for sure.
I know. And then the 9 shoot, which was a huge endeavor for us to get these 4 major actresses together. One day that all worked. It was right around, I believe, the Oscars. And Anna wanted them shot outside. So we brought them to that beach, and there was just a little piece of sand. It was like the smallest beach ever. And we finally have them all dressed. And then the waves are coming up. I think at that point, we're just like, let's not even worry about the dresses. Let's worry about getting a cover. What do you do to even...
Don't you remember the drama of that whole thing?
Yes.
First of all, the location. How many beaches are there on the coast of California? I have to pick Matador, which is one of the most treacherous descents to get into it. And carrying all the equipment, the photo.
And we couldn't go back up and down, so we had a little pop-up tent, a tiny.
Yeah, tiny.
I mean,
and it was one of those circumstances where, I think that was probably one of my most difficult shoots because I did do a fitting.
With everyone but Nicole. We did
everyone but Nicole. But, and then I reviewed as I always do, reviewed all of the fit pictures with Anna and then with Annie. And Annie, of course, wanted one outfit for Penelope that was inappropriate.
Right. And it didn't fit.
It didn't fit. I mean,
and it's black, which we know Anna wasn't going to run from our previous experience.
Yeah. It was perfect for a Vanity Fair cover. It was not perfect for a Vogue cover, but Annie was very set on shooting it. And when it came time for me to say, Annie, we've got to make the change and put her into this product, Annie got really upset at me.
Yeah.
In fact, she just did not want to, it had to be a credit.
Then we had to talk to Penelope in the tent and come up with this whole thing. Penelope's like, can I help you, Tonne? And she said, I have to, this is Vogue, and I know Anna wants me in this dress. And
Penelope absolutely rescued me.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Anna got very upset with me. Penelope was the one that said, come, Tonne, we're going to change. And she must have turned back and said, we're going to make this change. I will never forget it. I will never not appreciate and love Penelope.
Yeah.
Because it was a horrible experience for me. And once again, it's your life. So
it's your life.
Why?
No
question when it gets to be out of hand like that. It's just like, I don't understand why.
No, I know.
Not okay. It's not okay.
So I've always known this, but now it's obvious to everyone listening how passionate you are about your work, which we discussed is more than work. It's your life. What is it that you love so much about it?
I think that I have had such extraordinary opportunity in my work that it's been the amount of talent that I have been surrounded by it's really incredible when you think of it. When you think back to Diana Vreeland, Carrie Donovan, Helmut Newton, Anna Wintour, Calvin, the amount of talent that I have been embraced by is just extraordinary. There's nothing I love more than being with people who are gifted, and they're all gifted. They are just amazing people. There's nothing mundane at all.
No, the best of the best.
Yeah.
This might be a hard one, but what do you think your superpower is? I know that's a question to ask others, but you must know what makes you so good at this and in so many different environments. You photographed everyone from politicians to theater actors to athletes, multiple athletes, and you connected with all of them. Is it the ability to see someone, to actually see them or understand them? Or
now that you're talking about this, I think maybe it does come from very early on when I was a model. when I realized that this is a person that walks into a set, walks into an environment, and something is expected of them.
Mhm.
And whoever approaches them to embrace them and welcomes them into this set, that person is very important, because
Absolutely.
that's the timber for the entire experience. And it is an experience. It's part of their life, right?
Exactly.
All of our lives.
And for many women and many of these actresses, it was a dream from childhood.
Yeah.
So you're the one that's going to make this a dream or a nightmare, basically.
And
Or to
I think-
protect them, Tonne. Protect them from other people on set that might just to, you know what I mean?
I think that that is probably one of my
Mhm.
qualities, is that I am very protective. You know,
Yes.
I'm a mother, and I do feel that it's important to protect the people that you are with. That protection in life is very, very important. And I think that I also learned diplomacy. It's a word that is misused a lot, because what it really means is consideration. It really means that you're considering a situation and you're going to figure out how best to deal with it. That is kind of diplomacy. But what you're really doing is thinking of the other person. You're not thinking about yourself when you're being
Oh, yeah. That is amazing.
thinking of the other person. And I think that is what really has helped me throughout my career, is that I really think about the other people. I think that probably does come from being so mortified as a model, and being so bad at it, and thinking, put yourself in their position. They're walking into a Vogue shoot,
Yes,
and it's intimidating. You have to take care of them.
absolutely.
I think that's probably
Yeah.
it.
I agree. I've had you on the phone for a while now, and we're just going to have to do a part 2 someday.
Okay.
So at the end of each episode, I ask my guests the same questions, and it's just this or that. That's it. Super easy.
Okay. So I get
Yeah.
a choice.
Yes.
that.
AM or PM?
PM.
Uber or Subway?
Subway.
Book or film?
Film.
Sweet or spicy?
Sweet.
Spots or stripes?
Stripes.
Top or bottom?
Top.
Yay. I've loved kind of reminiscing. It's half my life, and it's fun to relive it in memory. So
Well, listen, I thank you for including me. It's so great to see you. That's all I can tell you. I mean,
Thank
memories
you.
are wonderful and all that stuff, but it's just, we worked together for a long time.
I know. I'm here. So let's see each
Yeah,
other
me
in
too.
real life.
You. All right. Wonderful.
Thank you, Tonne.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that's our show. Thanks for listening to Going Rogue. And be sure to like and subscribe. Today's show is produced by me and Maddie Rosenberg at Radio Free Rhinecliff, with assistance from Maddie Kelly. Special thanks to David Vo for our great graphics and Taras Romanov for our epic theme music. See you next Friday.